Hey, John Corcoran here. We're live at RetailX in Chicago, and I'm here with Michelle Fenstermaker from Fitch. And Michelle, tell me a little bit about Fitch for those who don't know what Fitch is and what you guys do.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, first off. I'm strategy director at Fitch, and what Fitch does is we could best describe ourselves as a customer experience design firm.
Okay.
So, in the old days, we'd say we were a retail design firm focused on brick and mortar execution. Mm-hmm. And we have, as retail has transformed, we have transformed our business. So we're focused on customer experience strategy and all of the touch points that are involved in creating a new experience, physical, human, and digital.
Okay.
And looking at the trifecta of those and being able to map those out to create the most ideal customer experience for our clients. We work with a lot of big legacy retailers. Think legacy, think folks with lots and lots of locations who are really struggling, figuring out what to do with those physical assets today. And one of the things that we've been talking about is how they can use that investment of yesterday and become a secret weapon of tomorrow. So we're really trying to help them understand how to do that.
It's interesting because on many levels, because the small scrappy startups don't have these assets, and yet they don't have the old way of thinking, and so you're battling against that. So what are some of the challenges for you in working with these clients? And by the way, I was looking at your website beforehand. You've got Dell, Lego, some real Miele, some real household names that you've worked with.
Yeah.
So what is it like working with these retailers and getting them to change their frame of mind or take a new approach?
Well, I think that, we're fortunate to work with some of the big brands, right? And so that is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because they are big enough to know that they're ready to transform, but the curse is they're not quite sure how to do it. There's a lot of operational constraints on them. We're finding lately that people aren't coming to us in a desperate mode. They're actually coming to us when they feel they're on the edge of being irrelevant to the next generation. So they're still doing well financially. Everything would look great on paper.
So it's not too late, in other words.
It's not too late.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is really helping them understand that you sometimes have to say no to things to move forward. Because everybody, if they have a store of the future, a branch of the future, an experience of the future, they tell us, well, we don't want to alienate our core older customer who may be dying off, literally. But we also want to make sure that we're relevant to the next generation. So tell us how to do that. And we always say, well, we have to make some decisions where sometimes we have to say no and get off our operational hats and put on our customer hat. So
what are some of those major no's that they've had to do? Like, is it closing all their retail operations? Is it completely changing lines of businesses, dropping product lines? What sorts of, what do you mean?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is when you say no is being all things to all people and one size fits all. So the first point, being all things to all people and selling in multiple channels. So if our client comes to us and say their brand is going through a regeneration or repositioning, but where they're selling their product doesn't match with that, yet it's providing revenue, yet it's not core to who they want to be in the future, that's a no decision. That's a no. You might not want to sell your product in a Kohl's because your customer actually would be in your own branded store. So being able to tell them to say no to revenue.
Yeah, because they have to turn away money.
That's really, really tough. You'll hear us say that the only way for a retailer to create true differentiation is to be customer-centric but brand-led. If you're leading by what your brand stands for, the rest of it will fall into place in terms of differentiation because your closest competitor is going after the exact same type of customer. There's only so many customers to go around. So how do you differentiate? You differentiate on your brand and what your brand stands for. So that's a hard one. The other one is when we are working with, say, the retailers that have thousands of locations, and that would be a legacy retailer, and how that one size doesn't fit all, and to be very experimental with their assets and not be afraid to test and learn. And that can be a struggle. If they're operationally driven, they're beholden to their operators throughout different regions, and you say we might want 5 stores to play with as a learning lab, and that can be sometimes a real obstacle in an organization that has a lot of red tape, a lot of complexities in the business that might be extremely siloed. So that's another example.
And they probably worry about it hurting the brand in some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially in the age of social media, when something that happens in one location could go viral and be shared worldwide.
Yep. Yeah, and if the other thing that we've noticed in common with a lot of the legacy retailers is they're risk averse and cautious and conservative. The cautious and conservative has helped preserve some assets and some revenue, but they know they're just one move away from irrelevancy. Right. So we just come in. That's where we come in. We can be the agitator. We're objective.
You're outsiders.
We're outsiders. Yeah. But we have our customer hat on before we have our design hat on. Design, and I don't want to minimize the impact of that, that's just an output. We're all about the customer experience strategy and what would be the ideal journey for them.
Right. What about the 800-pound gorilla over all of this, which is Amazon, right? Everyone's thinking of the impact of Amazon. A lot of the legacy retailers I know have struggled with the idea of, we don't want to put our products on Amazon. What do you say to them?
Well, I say that here's the thing with Amazon. Every single legacy retailer that comes to us, the first thing is, how do we beat Amazon? And we say, well, what do you mean by beat Amazon? Right? Because if you are a legacy retailer who has a lot of physical brick and mortar and assets, Amazon would kill for that. And they're an online player. They're
expanding into retail.
They're expanding. They have their Amazon Go, but purchasing Whole Foods, and I think they're going to go after another big box retailer. I don't want to say who I think they're going to go after, but I think
it rhymes with Small Mart.
Maybe, which would make sense for them, right? So because it is conquering the last mile and getting as close to customers as possible. The other thing that we try to tell our legacy retailers when they're combating Amazon is, think about dialing up PhD, think about the human element. Amazon cannot capture human. They don't have human in their DNA, but a lot of our retailers we work with do. They just don't know how to leverage it. One of the things that we talked about in our talk earlier was use human, elevate it to differentiate it, and take advantage of that, because that is something Amazon does not have.
Elevate it to differentiate.
Use human, elevate human to differentiate yourself as a brand. And that goes through, that just doesn't mean thinking about human in physical brick and mortar. That is even from your technology and your digital touch points. Can you elevate human, a human touch within those? Because we're all craving that. In this digital world. And what digital has done is it's taken away the pain, it's made things frictionless, it's made things very automated.
But it's taken away some of the humanity.
But it's taken away the humanity. It's taken away the stickiness. It's taken away the memorable emotional connections. But yet we still want it because it makes our lives easier. So that's where our legacy retailers really have an opportunity to shine and be able to elevate that human to differentiate.
It's been an interesting recurring theme actually in these interviews today. A lot of people talking about returning to the human.
Yeah.
Anything else that we haven't talked about? Any other issues, challenges, or things to be aware of that are coming up in the digital, with e-commerce and with retail today?
No, I don't know, and probably other speakers have talked about it. I know that one of the gentlemen, I think it was Andy Dunn this morning, who was the founder of Bonobos, who now obviously is part of Walmart, he was talking about when you look at digital and e-commerce and then you look at this physical, appreciate the model and the beauty of the model for what it is, right? So from an e-commerce and what it delivers, but, don't be afraid to, experiment, to test and learn. I mean, they learn that, people had to try things on in order to actually make a difference. So I thought that was a really great takeaway. And the other thing that is, be very observant and start to notice things. In order to be more competitive, start to notice things that your competitors aren't noticing. And I think that it's amazing the number of retailers that we work with who some of the executive level said, I haven't been in a store in 3 years. Walk the stores, look at the shoppers, understand.
Work behind the register, maybe.
Work behind the register. Understand the hierarchy of what they're looking. This is what they're looking at, right? This is what they're looking at today. So you can either fight it or you can embrace it.
Right.
And you need to embrace it. Nobody should ever, though, be made to feel that they shouldn't be shopping in stores, right? Everyone gets nervous about, they should do everything online. It's so easy. But bring the touch points together.
Yeah.
That's what digital convergence is all about. PhD, working in harmony.
Yeah.
So
great stuff. Thank you so much. Michelle Fenstermaker from Fitch. Where can people learn more about Fitch?
You can go to fitch.com to see our website, and you can, we're on Instagram at Fitch Design. We're on Twitter at Fitch Design. So lots of places to experience us.
Perfect. We're here all day, live from RetailX in Chicago doing interviews.